whole lot of shaking going on. In the last 36 hours, dozens of earthquakes have been recorded.
Beneath Vancouver's calm coastline, a powerful force is awakening. The Pacific Northwest, famed for its beauty, hides a volatile secret just below the surface.
A sudden surge of seismic activity beneath Vancouver Island has geologists across the Pacific Northwest raising alarms. The once quiet Cascadia Subduction Zone is no longer slumbering. Deep beneath the Earth's crust, tectonic forces have begun to build with renewed intensity, prompting scientists to issue a rare red alert, the highest warning level in geological monitoring systems. This alert signals more than just heightened tremors. It marks the potential for an event of immense geological consequence. The renewed activity in this vast tectonic boundary hints at an unstable equilibrium tipping toward rupture. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The Cascadia Subduction Zone stretches from Northern California through Oregon and Washington, ending just offshore from Vancouver Island in British Columbia. It is a colossal fault line where the oceanic Juan de Fuca plate is slowly being forced beneath the North American plate, a process called subduction. This slow-motion collision has been ongoing for millions of years, but it is anything but smooth or harmless. Stress accumulates as the two plates grind together, and when that stress is suddenly released, it results in powerful earthquakes. For centuries, this fault has produced some of the most massive earthquakes the planet has known. Now, with a flurry of new seismic signals emanating from its depths, all eyes are on Vancouver. Over the past several weeks, geologists monitoring seismic sensors along the Canadian coast have detected a marked increase in tremor patterns. These aren't the sharp jolts of shallow quakes familiar to residents, but rather a deep, rumbling resonance known as episodic tremor and slip ETS. ETS is a unique geophysical process that occurs in subduction zones, where the descending oceanic plate occasionally slips against the overriding continental plate, releasing pent-up strain without a typical quake. These slips are usually silent, slow, and periodic. But this time, they've arrived early, and with an intensity never before recorded in this region. ETS events act as a pressure release valve, a sign that the fault is adjusting under mounting forces. But when these slips become unusually frequent or powerful, it suggests that the fault may be nearing a breaking point. What has unsettled scientists isn't just the frequency of the tremors, but the depth and energy with which they are occurring. The sensors have picked up low-frequency earthquakes, a hallmark of deep subduction movement, occurring in clusters and migrating laterally along the fault. This behavior often precedes large-scale seismic ruptures, particularly in zones like Cascadia that are capable of magnitude 9.0 or higher earthquakes. Beneath Vancouver Island, these tremors have begun to surface with alarming consistency. Data streams from GPS monitors have shown minute, yet measurable shifts in the Earth's crust, movements that only occur when immense tectonic stress is being redistributed. These movements have coincided with small swarms of quakes, some of them too deep to be felt by humans but easily detected by instrumentation. These are not random acts of Earth's motion. They are signals that the gears beneath the crust are tightening. Geologists are particularly concerned because the Cascadia Subduction Zone has not experienced a major rupture since the year 1700. That event, estimated at magnitude 8.7 to 9.2, created a devastating tsunami that reached the coasts of Japan. Oral histories from indigenous communities and geological evidence in the form of sunken forests and coastal marshes support this catastrophic event. But since that massive release, the fault has remained eerily quiet. Such silence in geological terms is not comfort. It's a loaded spring. The 3 centuries have seen strain accumulate to perilous levels along the fault. With each passing year of inactivity, the amount of potential energy locked within the subduction zone grows. Now, with the fault showing signs of motion beneath Vancouver Island, the possibility of a megathrust earthquake has once again entered public and scientific consciousness. A megathrust event would be catastrophic, not just due to shaking, but also because of the tsunami it would unleash. Entire coastal communities could face destruction within minutes of such an event, depending on the rupture's epicenter and direction. What makes the situation especially unnerving is the pattern of behavior leading up to large earthquakes in other subduction zones across the globe. In Japan, Chile, and Indonesia, Clusters of deep tremors and slip events often preceded major seismic catastrophes. These precursor movements, while not always predictive of exact timing, have repeatedly signaled the approach of large ruptures. The current behavior of the Cascadia Fault mirrors these patterns. The shift from periodic tremor events to accelerated energetic tremor swarms beneath Vancouver signals a dangerous transition from steady strain accumulation to imminent instability. The issuance of a red alert is not done lightly. It represents a consensus among multiple agencies, universities, and geological monitoring centers. It indicates that models have reached thresholds that align with known precursors to large-scale seismic failure. While it does not guarantee an earthquake, it reflects the high probability of such an event within a specific window. For the region's emergency planners and infrastructure managers, this is the point at which contingency plans must become action. The Vancouver area is particularly vulnerable due to its position at the northern end of the subduction zone. The geology of the region, including its soft sediments and proximity to the fault's interface, make it susceptible to strong ground motion amplification. Bridges, high-rise buildings, and critical transportation routes have been designed with seismic codes in mind, but these were often based on outdated models that underestimated the full potential of a Cascadia rupture. A surge in tectonic activity beneath the city now tests those assumptions in real time. In the event of a major rupture, the most immediate concern would be ground shaking, which could last for several minutes. Unlike smaller earthquakes, megathrust events generate prolonged shaking capable of toppling buildings, cracking foundations, and severing lifelines such as water, electricity, and communications. Secondary effects such as landslides and fires could follow, yet perhaps the gravest concern is the tsunami risk. A sudden shift of the seafloor could displace an enormous column of water, sending waves hurtling toward the coast with little time for evacuation. Vancouver Island's west coast, with its sparse but exposed communities, would bear the brunt of such waves. Even with alert systems in place, the geography of the region, rugged terrain, limited road access, and low-lying coastal settlements would complicate evacuation efforts. For cities like Victoria and even the lower mainland near Vancouver proper, the risk is not from direct tsunami impact, but from harbor resonance and infrastructure disruption. Compounding the physical dangers are the economic and logistical implications. Vancouver is a major port and economic gateway for Canada, handling billions in trade each year. A rupture that damages port facilities, rail lines, and highways would send shockwaves through the national economy. Moreover, the city serves as a critical hub for emergency services and disaster response. Its capacity to remain operational during a seismic crisis is crucial and uncertain. The psychological toll of this red alert is already beginning to surface. Residents familiar with the region's geological past know that the Earth here has a memory, a rhythm of catastrophic upheaval followed by long silences. Each new tremor now feels like a warning, a reminder of the colossal forces beneath their feet. Schools, hospitals, and municipalities are reviewing emergency protocols. For many, the warning is not merely scientific, it's deeply personal. Scientists emphasize that while prediction of exact timing remains elusive, preparedness is not. The surge in activity beneath Vancouver Island may not result in an immediate rupture, but it does signify that the system is entering a phase of instability. The message is not one of panic, but of alert awareness. Preparedness measures, both structural and procedural, must be enacted as if the event could occur tomorrow. This seismic awakening is also a reminder of Earth's dynamic nature. The crust beneath our feet is not static, but alive with motion, driven by processes that have shaped continents, raised mountains, and created oceans. In Cascadia, those processes are playing out in real time, beneath one of North America's most populous corridors. The red alert is not just a signal of risk, it is a signal of nature asserting its power, reminding humanity that for all its technology and cities, it remains part of a planet governed by titanic forces. As the sensors continue to pulse with data, and the Earth beneath Vancouver Island rumbles in deep muffled roars, geologists remain vigilant. Every new tremor, every slip of the plate, every inch of ground deformation adds another line to a story millions of years in the making. The subduction zone's sudden surge in activity has reawakened not only scientific urgency, but also a sense of awe and humility. The stage is set, the actors, tectonic plates, are in motion, and the outcome remains uncertain. But one thing is clear: Cascadia is stirring. The intensification of tectonic movement beneath Vancouver Island brings not just geological unease, but also a profound shift in how society must approach natural hazards. As the red alert status reverberates through governmental departments, emergency preparedness groups, scientific institutions, and everyday households, the implications of this unprecedented seismic activity begin to reshape regional priorities. What had long been treated as a theoretical worst-case scenario is now entering the realm of immediate concern. At the heart of this awakening is a recognition of the immense complexity of subduction zones. These regions are not monolithic fault lines, but multi-layered geological systems composed of interlocking, interacting elements. The current activity in Cascadia is not just coming from a single fault rupture, but rather a systemic buildup across multiple depths and segments of the zone. New data suggests that the fault's locked section, where the plates are stuck together and strain builds, is wider and deeper than once believed. This deeper locking increases the rupture potential across a much broader area and possibly at greater magnitudes than originally anticipated. One especially troubling factor in this latest surge is the behavior of so-called slow slip zones, deep portions of the fault that usually shift gradually over weeks. Scientists once considered these areas to act as buffers, bleeding off pressure and reducing the risk of larger quakes. But as recent data shows, these slow slips are now being accompanied by sharp, sudden micro-events, suggesting a breakdown of the very mechanisms that once maintained balance. This breakdown hints at a transition from a stable fault system to one that is critically stressed. Another area of growing concern lies in the structural vulnerability of Vancouver and surrounding cities. Much of the older infrastructure was built before modern seismic design standards were in place. These include bridges, water mains, hospitals, schools, and energy transmission lines. Even in newer construction, code compliance does not equate to absolute safety. Rather, it often aims to prevent collapse during moderate to strong shaking, not to maintain full operational capacity. The economic consequences of even moderate damage in a dense urban center can be staggering, shutting down transportation routes, delaying emergency response, and disrupting the lives of millions for weeks or even months. Moreover, the interconnectedness of critical systems makes the entire region far more fragile than surface appearances might suggest. A rupture along Cascadia could sever undersea communication cables that connect North America to Asia. It could trigger widespread power outages from snapped transmission towers and compromise substations. Telecommunications networks could collapse under high traffic and infrastructure failures, cutting residents off from vital information. Water and sewage systems, already under strain in some urban areas, could be compromised for prolonged periods, raising secondary public health risks. The real-time monitoring effort now underway is the most advanced ever deployed in this region. Hundreds of sensors, from ocean-bottom seismometers to satellite-based GPS receivers, are feeding data into predictive models every second. These systems are designed not only to track the fault's movement, but also to detect the early signs of rupture propagation. If a large quake begins, the first few seconds of motion will trigger automated early warning systems capable of issuing alerts before the most damaging shaking arrives. While these systems may offer only seconds to tens of seconds of advance notice, that window can be enough to shut off gas lines, halt trains, stop elevators, and save lives. However, the effectiveness of early warning systems depends on public readiness. Recent surveys show that while awareness of earthquake risk is high in British Columbia, preparedness lags behind. Many households lack basic emergency kits. Few workplaces conduct regular drills. And schools, although better prepared, often struggle with outdated buildings and inconsistent funding for resilience upgrades. This disconnect between awareness and action is a critical weakness exposed by the red alert. What amplifies this concern is the unique nature of Cascadia's seismic hazard compared to other well-known fault zones. Unlike faults like California's San Andreas, where frequent smaller quakes relieve stress more often, Cascadia is categorized as a quiet subduction zone. Its capacity to go centuries without major quakes fosters complacency, but also means that when it does rupture, it does so with overwhelming force. The locked interface between the Juan de Fuca and North American plates is estimated to have built up 3 centuries worth of stress. The energy released during a full margin rupture would dwarf anything experienced in modern North American history. In addition to the primary threat of ground shaking and tsunamis, the landscape itself would be altered in dramatic and permanent ways. Coastal subsidence, where land suddenly drops, could reshape entire inlets, estuaries, and harbors. This vertical motion of the crust has been observed in past megaquakes in Japan and Alaska, where low-lying coastlines sank by more than a meter in a matter of minutes. In a region like Vancouver Island, where large populations live along or near tidal zones, this land level change could mean permanent inundation of infrastructure, homes, and roads. The environmental consequences of such changes are also considerable. Estuarine ecosystems could be destroyed or reshaped. Oil and chemical spills from damaged industrial facilities could contaminate local waterways. Landslides triggered by the quake could bury rivers and alter their flow, damaging aquatic habitats and drinking water supplies. In densely forested and mountainous terrain, even the air would suffer, with forest fires likely to ignite from broken power lines or ruptured gas lines, especially during summer months when vegetation is dry. Public agencies, in response to the red alert, are now shifting from theoretical scenario planning to actual pre-event mobilization. Emergency management offices are activating coordination centers, checking stockpiles of food, water, and medical supplies, and assessing the readiness of search and rescue teams. Hospitals are reviewing surge capacity plans and ensuring that trauma centers have backup power and water supplies. Local governments are working to identify the most vulnerable residents, those in long-term care, people with disabilities, the elderly, and the unhoused, to ensure they receive timely assistance when the ground finally moves. This transformation in approach also affects the private sector. Businesses are being encouraged to review business continuity plans, cross-train employees for emergency roles, and ensure remote working options remain viable should offices become unusable. Insurance companies, long wary of the big one, are adjusting risk models and may begin tightening underwriting standards or raising premiums across coastal British Columbia. As for the scientific community, the current conditions offer a once-in-a-generation opportunity to learn from an evolving system on the verge of failure. Research vessels are being dispatched to monitor seabed deformation and collect samples. Drone surveys are mapping coastal uplift and vegetation changes in real time. Advanced AI systems are being trained to analyze seismic swarms and predict rupture probability based on evolving parameters. This moment is not only a challenge, but also a historic window into one of Earth's most powerful natural mechanisms. Meanwhile, the psychological impact of a red alert is deeply personal and cultural. Indigenous communities across Vancouver Island carry a living memory of past cataclysms, passed through oral tradition, that often surpasses modern scientific timelines. These stories of Thunderbird battles, floods, and vanished villages are more than legend. They are encoded geological truths, expressed through narrative and art. Now, as the ground echoes once more with tremors, those ancestral warnings ring louder than ever. The community response is, in many ways, as critical as the scientific one. Families are holding neighborhood meetings, discussing evacuation routes, and checking on vulnerable neighbors. Some are making decisions to relocate from coastal homes or retrofitting old structures for better resistance. Schools are running drop cover hold drills more frequently. Churches, synagogues, mosques, and community centers are preparing to act as emergency shelters. The red alert has become not just a scientific signal but a unifying force, reminding people that when the Earth moves, the strength of a community can determine who survives. There is also a growing awareness that resilience cannot be built overnight. Cascadia's awakening forces a long overdue conversation about infrastructure equity, long-term planning, and sustainable development. The question is not just whether current buildings will survive, but whether future growth will take seismic risk into account. This red alert may well influence building codes, land use regulations, and zoning decisions for years to come. As one generation experiences the edge of tectonic awakening, it becomes the responsibility of planners, architects, engineers, and lawmakers to build for the next. For all the unease this warning has created, it has also reignited a sense of urgency that had begun to fade. Cascadia is no longer theoretical. It is present, pressing, and volatile. While the exact outcome remains uncertain, the path ahead is clear. Prepare, strengthen, educate, and adapt. For beneath the forests, cities, and coastlines of British Columbia, ancient forces are once again asserting their place in the human story. The Earth is speaking in tremors and shifts. Now, humanity must listen and respond. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us. What are your thoughts on Vancouver's subduction zone red alert? Will it erupt? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.